What's up? Hopefully, we're gonna redo that whole room, so be a bit more flexible. I don't know.
What an awesome.
I know.
Thinking about that.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So-
Name like that, I think you
I
have
know,
to.
you do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good, how are you? I don't know. This is also for you to share. Please. Or I will eat it all. Are you not eating?
I had, I just had a big breakfast and I had, I'm sorry.
I have more
No,
chocolate.
I mean, if you put it there, I would. Hey, there's plenty here.
Yeah. Maybe I'll slip you some more chocolates.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's pretty big.
Chocolate, yeah.
Very good. Very good. That's your kryptonite.
Yeah, that's my kryptonite. Oh. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
She had.
Yep. Good.
Five calling. So they were there.
Well, you've been on the road, I imagine.
Airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it worked.
From where?
I took this little single engine yesterday from
Still.
to Skagway,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm not used to those. So everybody started laughing at me.
There's a little.
White knuckle flight there. I was grabbing on people.
Yeah, well, the air current bouncing around quite a bit more.
Yeah, especially between those mountains
Yep.
on the
And then when
water.
you get low ceilings, they gotta make alternative routes, you know, and
Yeah.
when you go through passes, it's tough.
Yeah, they got bumpy like a pinball.
Yeah.
Where you feel comfortable?
In Skagway.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Howling. Right through those mountains.
Last time we were together,
So you
we were all hot. Now it's out of secret.
urban caravan there.
Not a ballot under.
Yeah, I'm pretty reliable.
Exactly.
Just here.
We're used to it, just our air taxi, that's the way we get around here all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So it's gonna be a good meeting. What's that? It's gonna be a good meeting. I'm sure.
Okay. You got a big boat coming next year?
Oh, great. Okay. Oh, I got
It was coming out.
Gonna be a little student. Yeah, and yeah, today is Skagway. Yeah, today here, so.
Capital's fault, I'm bad. It's an experience.
Oh, okay.
I know, right? Beautiful. That's the thing, you know. Actually, mom.
Yeah.
I did. Actually, guys, can I see people better? Yours were on. Super. How could they know?
We just, we sort of say to the weeks, and our team is.
Hey, that.
Spain, I was like, how we do? Seems to be our.
Yeah. It would take 2 days.
Yeah, we probably.
I feel. By taking 4 months.
She had done more seasons, like Christy had done more
And I
seasons.
took in.
Yeah, so this lady's done a season, and she's all out. She absolutely. This is what people are having to time.
I don't know how to take up the time.
Yes, otherwise they think of things. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel maybe. A year or two, which. I did not come up with the year. I ran like, so I. And that's harbor 30 stores, types, the management of people, the management of people. And what I had was, my wife and I have been talkers. So we've been on rush 84. So with our kids, so I was on the other side of the business where I was always trying to see them on the centers. So this is the first thing I'm the best. In my second. Oh, got it.
I'm excited to see
There is no training, you just get brought in here. Yeah, it's.
we did.
How takes it?
Good morning. Oh, boy, that works well. I like that. So, welcome everybody to Catch a Can for you that are traveling, and good morning to the council and locals that are here in regards to having further discussions about cruise and cruise industry in southern Southeast Alaska. We certainly appreciate it. We got some housekeeping.
So in the event of an emergency, you can exit out those doors, hang a right, and then we will meet over in front of the Cape Fox Lodge Hotel. Normally, we don't give this presentation, but for those of you who are at Southeast Conference, we did have a fire alarm go off in the middle of Southeast Conference. So I will just let you know that that's where we would meet up. We'd muster over in front of the hotel if we should have an emergency in this building. Restrooms are out the door to the left. And if you need anything else, I'm sitting right there.
Thank you. So this is a work session with the City of Ketchikan and Cruise Line International. It's April 23rd, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you take a roll, please?
And yes, is
Here.
and Nancy.
Thank you. In the absence of an American flag, we'll probably dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance at this time. I'd like to start our meetings off that, and so I'd like to start out with introductions and some, talks about the expectations of the meeting today. Hopefully, it's an interchange of information that we can all benefit from in regards to promoting tourism, not only in Ketchikan, but in Southeast Alaska. So with that, I'd start with Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for having us all here. My name is Russell Benford, Vice President of Government Relations for Royal Caribbean Group. Royal Group, so we have a flag, by the way, Mayor. We'll go back to
that after you're finished. Go ahead.
Royal Caribbean Group has 3 distinct brands that visit Alaska. That would be Royal Caribbean, Celebrity Cruises, and we also have a boutique cruise line called Silver Sea. Thank you.
So with that, now that we have a flag, would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for that. Also, the City Council would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional first people of the land of Ketchikan, the Tongass Tlingit people. That will continue with introductions.
Michaela Fowler. I am the Director for Southeast Government and Community Relations for Carnival, so including Holland America, Princess, Cunard, and Seabourn.
Thank you. Welcome. Yep.
I'm Jay Matani, member of the City Council of Ketchikan.
I'm Jon Olav Stedja, Global Community Engagement and Sustainability for MSC Cruises, the new kid in the block coming in 2026. Really looking forward to it. We also have a small little luxury brand called Explora, which also will be present in this area in a couple of years. So I'm here to listen and here to learn and here to understand a bit more about this part of the world. Thank you.
Lalette Kistler, City Council.
Sandy Weir with Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, and I do global government relations and community affairs. And we have the brands of Norwegian Cruise Line, Regent Seven Seas, as well as Oceania Cruises.
Lacey Simpson, I'm the acting city manager for the city of Ketchikan.
Lainey Downs with Cruise Lines International Association.
Abby Bradbury, Ketchikan City Council. Renee Limoges-Reeve, Cruise Lines International Association.
Dick Coos, City Council.
Robert Morgenstern with the Carnival Brands Princess Holland America. Princess Holland America Carnival. Seabourn and Cunard, you know, I would have to count that in my head. And locally, tour operator HAP is part of our company.
Jack Finnegan, Ketchikan City Council. And Lacey, would you like to introduce some of the staff?
Sure, Your Honor. I'm just going to go around the room here in no particular order of importance. So we have Amanda Robinson, who is our Assistant Public Works Director, who will be giving some updates on transportation today, everyone's favorite topic. We have Sean Hart, who is our Acting Assistant City Manager, who is actually our controller, but he is filling in while we go through our leadership transition. We have Wayne Phillips, who is our Port and Harbors Director. He started just at the end of December, so this is his first cruise season as Port and Harbors Director. We have Michelle Johansson, who is our Finance Director, who can speak to all things financial if need be. We have Craig Bisson, our Port Operations Manager, and Lori Boysa. Hello, Lori. Sorry, everybody knows who Lori is, but Lori is our tourism manager, and she's the one who, of course, has coordinated today's meeting and done a fantastic job.
Thank you. So with that,
Kim, sorry, we'll do Kim Stanker as well. Our city. Kim probably won't be contributing a lot to the conversation, but she's very important to all of our city council meetings. Thank you very much, Kim. Sorry about that.
thank you. So with that, we'll move on to item 4, which is persons to be heard. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to the council today? We'd like recognition of some of the individuals that are in the audience that have been longtime entrepreneurs in the community and represent support groups for the cruise industry. We have Survey Point Holding with us and Mr. Binkley from the Ward Cove Group and the operations going on out there. And I can't see the other people over the podium.
Jim Gow, President, Ward Cove Now.
And Bethany McCurry, I'm with PAP here in Ketchikan.
All right, thank you.
No one signed up.
Thank you. Brings on to item 5, industry remarks. Renee, and welcome. Good to
Thank
see
you.
again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council members. I walked in today and I thought how nice it was. This is our 3rd time doing this and everybody's a familiar face now. And I think that's a good sign. And I think it's a great testament to what we're trying to do here, which is open the lines of communication, ensure that we are talking about all of the issues that we face together as industry and community. It's caught on. You may have heard we were in Skagway yesterday doing something similar. We also met with Haynes. We're in Juneau tomorrow. So I think you guys have sort of set a trend for us with local communities, and we appreciate that. We are all excited to go into this season. We think it's going to be another great season. We know that there are maybe some transportation challenges that we'll be addressing together and trying to work through. But again, having this opportunity to meet with you in person, to talk through things, to welcome some of our new members that are coming, I think I think Jan Olaf's presence here speaks to what we're really trying to do, which is ensure that you know the faces that are representing the companies that come to your community and that, that you welcome every day. So thank you again, and we look forward to a productive afternoon with you.
Thank you, Renee. So we'll enter into the work section, topics and discussions. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Lacey. You can put your food away first if you want.
You caught me trying to get out of my seat. So on the agenda today, we have a number of items to follow up with everybody on from our last work session in November. So hopefully these are not new topics, but things that we've discussed off and on over the last few years and things that we felt were important as we started the 2025 season. So we will start with Laurie, our tourism manager, to go over something that we have been in discussions with industry for, I think, about a year now, and culminated just in the last several months, which was implementing sales tax. Thank you, Lillette. Implementing sales tax collection of certain sales on board ships while they are in port. So, Laurie, if you don't mind giving an overview.
Absolutely. So we've been in discussion with the industry and with the borough. So Reader's Digest version, if you're not aware, the Borough of Ketchikan and the City of Ketchikan are not a consolidated government. They are two separate governments. But one of the responsibilities of the borough is to collect sales tax for the city and the borough. And we met with them in a collaborative meeting where both entities agreed that we would start collecting sales tax from the cruise ships for the goods and services that they provide when they are within the boundaries of the borough. So in front of you, you have a copy of the memo that the finance department for the borough sent out to all of their finance contacts for the cruise lines. And basically what it says is that when vessels are tied up at the port of Ketchikan downtown, in berths 1 through 4 in that area. Also, they will be collecting the full sales tax for the city and the borough. The anchor locations and Ward Cove are only in the borough. So if ships are at anchor or at Ward Cove, they will only be collecting sales tax for the borough. And that became effective on April 1st. I haven't heard anything negative from the borough about this, so I think this is moving along pretty smoothly. And we appreciate industry's support in making this happen. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Leanie.
It's more of a comment. I just wanted to say again how thankful we are for the long time lead and heads up on this and working with us. It's been a pleasure working with you on this, so thank you, Laurie, for that. The borough was great too in providing this document and the follow-up questions, but it's, again, the more lead time on any sort of changes is what is absolutely necessary for the industry, but we just want to thank you for that.
That's it.
Thank you. Over the years, we have heard and agree that as we do these rates or increases, that the lead time is very important to the cruise industry because you're selling ahead of time and all that kind of stuff. And so the more that we can stay in communications on what that timeline is based on your sales and based on what we need to do, I think the better. So we appreciate that also. What next?
Okay, so we'll move on to our next item, which is sort of an overview of the request that the city of Ketchikan has made of the Ketchikan Gateway Borough for use of their CPV funds. So as Laurie stated when we were talking about the previous topic about sales tax collection on board, the city and the borough are two independent governments, and this extends to the CPV remission that both governments receive. So as everyone, I think, is familiar in the room, the cruise passenger vessel tax that the state levies upon each passenger that comes to the state of Alaska, the first 7 ports of call receive $5 in that sales tax revenue. Because the city and the borough are not consolidated, the passengers that come to the Port of Ketchikan, the city and the borough split that $5 evenly. So the city receives $2.50 per passenger and the borough receives $2.50 per passenger. Now that we have vessels that are going to Word Cove and we have passengers disembarking at Word Cove, that is outside city limits. And that $5 per passenger is remitted solely to the Ketchikan Gateway Borough. The city does not receive those funds, even though a large number of those passengers do come into the city of Ketchikan and impact our infrastructure and our resources. So the city council had discussion I think during the budget and then sort of culminating in the earlier part of the year, that they felt that it was important to make a request of the borough to further contribute to different tourism initiatives and impacts within the city limits using cruise passenger vessel tax funds that are given to the Ketchikan Gateway Borough. In February, the City Council agreed to submit a request to the borough totaling $1 million in projects. So there are 3 different projects. We were requesting $250,000 for a port electrification study, a feasibility study. As the industry knows, we've been discussing port electrification for quite some time, but it's a very, very expensive project with a lot of unknowns. And the first step in that process is doing a feasibility study. We also requested $500,000 toward cathodic protection at the port. This again has been a very long-standing project, cathodic protection, which we'll get into a little bit later when our Port and Harbors Director speaks to this. Something that is integral to the viability of the Port of Ketchikan as it continues to age, particularly berths 1 and 2. So we were hoping for funds for that project as well. We also requested $250,000 for passenger amenities at the port and through downtown. And these would be things like benches, rain shelters, things of that nature. The Borough Assembly did review our requests several times as part of their budget process. They're on a fiscal calendar year for their budget as opposed to a calendar year for the city. So we're kind of in opposition when it comes to how we allocate our funding. The Borough Assembly has reviewed our request several times, and at this point in time, they have not agreed to allocate any of their CPV monies to the city for these projects in their next fiscal year. Their budget is not finalized yet, so there is potential for future discussion. And I think as years go on, we will continue to have those discussions with staff. That was the one thing that we did hear from the borough is they wanted this process between city and borough staff to start earlier. There's also a desire to have a 5-year CIP plan of both city and borough projects utilizing CPB funding so that the Borough Assembly can determine if one project is more of a priority than the other. So we will continue to have those discussions. I should have added when I started this that there has been some precedent in the past of the city and the borough collaborating with their CPV funds, but it's been some time. It's not something that we've done on a regular basis. So with city council direction, I believe this is a topic that we'll probably broach with the borough on a more regular basis, probably annually, and do a bit better in terms of starting that conversation earlier. Laurie, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, or Wayne or Sean, since you were the last ones to speak to the Borough Assembly about those projects.
I can speak and did a presentation to the borough.
Do you want to come up to the podium?
I'm surprised you can't hear me. So I'll speak to this real quickly. We had a presentation with the borough where we discussed each one of these projects and why it was important. I think there was some reception, but I think they have to decide what particular project they can do. So as the city manager noted, that they're still looking into it. We're hopeful. And hopefully moving forward, we can collaborate and take care of some of these things that we need to address. So that's what I have to say on that. Thank you.
We did meet with the borough prior to this meeting, and they did discuss that is up for consideration. And on behalf of industry, we did thank them for that consideration because we do realize that, you being partners is helpful to all of us as well. So we encouraged them and thanked them for their consideration of that.
Yeah, and just so everybody understands what we're talking about, so this year we're predicting 1,000 or 1,400,000 passengers. And so the city of Ketchikan sports are going to receive about 1 million of those. And so we get $2,698,000 for that. And Ward Cove will also receive half of those funds for the 1,079,000 passengers, but they also have 390,000 passengers coming to Ward Cove that they'll get the full $5, which is almost $2 million. So the city gets 36% of the CPV monies coming to the community, which is 2,698,000, and the borough will get 4,650,000 of the total $7,300,000 worth of funds coming into the community. We own all the port infrastructure and the major portion of the commercial operations in the downtown area that we provide amenities to the cruise industry for, such as bathrooms and hydration units, trash collection, trash pickup, and all, of course, all the maintenance that you do before, painting crosswalks, washing things up, cleaning everything up, and getting that stuff ready, making sure we have safe pavement for a lack of tripping hazards, and those type of things. But so we do that with the 36% we have at this particular point. I think in the past we had one collaboration where we put some bathrooms, ADA bathrooms, in our museum. And so other than that, I don't know that we've had any other support in regards to the infrastructure issues that we have within owning the ports and going through those processes. So just for clarification. Thank you. So with that, are there any more comments in regards to that particular subject? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. So the request was 500, is that what you said, Lacey? So
It was 1 million total.
1 million total. And the total project estimate is how much?
For which, sorry?
Oh, sorry. Can't read my mind. Cathodic protection.
So yes, so the cathodic protection was $500,000 that we were requesting. And then the total project, Wayne, if I'm not even going to say it because every time I hear the number, it's a little bit higher. So he's motioning to me and I'm going to mess it up.
Just a ballpark, I think we're looking at about $32 million for the port cathodic protection. Thank you.
So I guess it's a process question of, this is an annual request, but isn't this going to be forever a request to the borough, or do you?
I don't imagine so. We've been in this cathodic protection issue for some time. It's a very expensive project and it's going to be ongoing. We understand that. So a matter of figuring out the funding resource, whether we're going to have to pay debt service on a loan or how we're going to manage those is yet to be decided, but we're looking for some help in regards to that. And because we understand that those docks are the conduit for revenues for the community of Ketchikan. And it's the entire community of Ketchikan. So we just felt it was appropriate to ask for some support. So with that, we're going to go on to the promenade stabilization. It's an ongoing project that we've been working on. So our Port and Harbor Director has a report on that.
Yeah, hi there. Wayne Phillips again, Port and Harbors Director for the City of Ketchikan. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the promenade stabilization. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So the promenade stabilization project was required to reduce movement and vibration near the entrance exit portion of the promenade. That's over by the Survey Point Holdings Office, Cruise Line Agency of Alaska office. Project was awarded to Pool Engineering. They completed that on March 13th. Did a pretty good job. The work has substantially reduced the vibration and movement. What was going on when we had passengers walking over that particular portion of the promenade, it would kind of sway. Perfectly stable, perfectly fine, but it was a little concerning. So we had the plans done up through by P&D. Pool Engineering came in. They put in some new fill material. They did X-bracing on the installation on one of the piles, and that has significantly reduced that movement. It also helped level it out. There was a little bit of a step, and they brought that up. So if you look at the next slide here, we're nice and level now as we're going down the promenade. If you look on the right-hand picture there, you can see the X-bracing that was put in to kind of stop some of that sway. You can't see it really well, but on the bottom portion of that smaller photograph, you can also see a bunch of fill material that went in there as well to help reduce any erosion. We'll talk a little bit about cathodic protection as well. Last year, I believe Mr. Bisson brought up cathodic protection here at the meeting last year. One of the things that we were really noticing that was being wasted away due to this electrolysis was the ride piles on berth 1. And those are removed ride piles. So that's kind of what it was looking like. And the ride pile is a fendering system on berth 1. So the berth 1 ride pile project was completed by Alaska Commercial Divers. It was completed actually this spring, March 20th, and we replaced 14 berth 1 ride piles for this fendering system. I can now report that berth 1 is ready for cruise ship traffic. All the fendering is put back in. We have a very good maintenance staff through ports and harbors, and they worked hard to get that back ready for the season. And kudos to Alaska Commercial Divers as well. And you saw the picture before. This is what the ride piles. So brand new ride piles that were put in. And then cathodic protection survey of the port. So we brought in Taku Engineering, where they did a survey, a complete survey of the berth 1 through 4. This was done in March 2025, this spring. We just got the report back actually a few days ago, and that report reveals that we require some replacement of cathodic protections throughout the port. We have missing and foreign pile wraps, coating system degradation, can't talk today. And so we have some coating failures, we have cathodic protection failures, and pile wraps that will need to get replaced. A federal grant application is currently being worked up, so we're trying to get some federal money to help with this particular project. No guarantees, but we're hopeful. And with that, that's what we've got going on. And as we talked about, we certainly know we've got a lot of work to do on the port. And how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And that's what we'll do. So thank you for your time. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Jay.
I'm sorry, on the promenade? I think that was about $200,000. Does that sound about right? And then the ride piles were $114,000. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
I may have missed it if it was on the previous slide, but the federal grant application is in process. And then what's the timeline for that?
The timeline for submittal is right now April 30th, and we're working with the grant writers to get that put in. We actually had a meeting yesterday with the grant writer and with the director of MARAD from the Seattle branch. And we believe that grant application is going to be pushed to the right, so we'll have a little more time, maybe to August. But as it stands right now, we'll be ready to put that application in April if they need it. And otherwise, we'll continue to work on a little bit and tweak it and push it, and we'll get it in before August.
Once that's submitted, then what's the turnaround time that if you are awarded that?
That I don't know. I don't know that answer, but I would expect probably a few months after that, they have to go through all the applications and then they'll rank where we fall. So hopefully, we've done all right and we've done our due diligence. Last year, this same grant was put in. We didn't get it, but we sat down with the director and they gave us ideas of how to bolster our case. And that's what we've done with this new application.
And then what's the amount for that grant?
I think the overall is 32 million to do the whole port. This one I think is about 22 million. You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, go ahead, Abby.
And have we been in contact with any of our state legislators, senators, or federal senators to help support this grant
Not
movement?
not with this particular, well, actually, that's not true. We actually did reach out to the Alaska delegation for letters of support.
Okay.
And we've requested that from the Alaska delegation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in regard to grants and fundings, Robert and I had a discussion before the meeting in regards to what's happening in the federal arena with a lot of funds being frozen, pulled back, not dispersed. And of course, there's been a reduction in forces in some of the programs and entities that do supply those. And Robert, you were saying that FEMA, there was some money available through FEMA that is on hold and not sure what the outcome of that will be. Is that correct? And I'm thinking through the industry, I imagine that you guys work really hard with the other communities in the state of Alaska in regard to applying through those grants and stuff. Are you finding that in other areas that, you know, we're going to be looking at, like you say, port electrification and dock upkeeps? I mean, that's all going to be going on. I know that there's a project for the Berth 4 coming up that'll be privately funded, but there's going to be a cost associated with the city. But do you see any more of that in the state? Is there anything else that you can kind of enlighten us on, since we're not in that larger realm of grant systems? Renee, maybe that's you.
You know, I think everybody's still trying to figure out what is happening on the federal level. And honestly, being in touch with the delegation is the best thing that you can do at this point, because they understand the unique challenges of Alaska, and we all know them because we live them every day. But the delegation, I know, is continuing to fight to restore some of the funding that people are concerned about losing. But, you know, I think everybody's just rewriting grants to use different words in some cases, or however, you know, however they feel they might better their chances. But I think everybody's just waiting to see. And it's not a great thing for people who are trying to plan for local governments, right?
Yeah, and we're seeing a huge increase in cost year after year. If we defer something, what we had planned for has gone up substantially in regards to cost of materials. And now with the tariff wars going on, we have no clue what's going to be available and when. So it's hurting us all. Any other comments? Hearing, seeing none. We talked a little bit about the cathodic protection already. Is there any questions in regards to that ongoing project and the management of that? Move us on to the Promenade expansion project.
Hello, I'm Amanda Robinson, Assistant Public Works Director for the City of Ketchikan. So this project's near and dear to my heart because I've been working on it since 2019 when I started at the city. This completes our promenade, our waterfront promenade. The board to my left here has a yellow line that traces the entire promenade. And there's a gap around the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show. It's the red line here up on the screen. This project will extend the promenade around Thomas Basin and the backside of the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show and return it along the what we call the NOAA building and connect there onto the backside of the federal building and allow it to continue on to the Thomas Basin area. We are currently in design with P&D engineers. We're about 98-99% done with design. They came down to Ketchikan in February and presented to City Council and got the blessing to continue on with design. Right now, we are working on getting in contact with the federal property owners for working on placing fill and fixing a sheet pile wall. That's the straight portion of that promenade there. That wall is in really rough shape and we have plans to fix it, but we need permission from the feds. And it's a tricky situation because that building right there is actually cut in two with the lot line. And so we have to contact two different agencies. Complicates things a little bit. So we're currently working on that. I've got easements on my desk right now that I'm reviewing. In 2024, we applied for and were awarded a federally funded transportation grant from the state. We are currently working on an MOA with the state to figure out design and construction. They actually awarded us design money, and then we came to them and said, well, actually, we've designed it. So we're working out how we can speed the process up a little bit and get it constructed a little sooner. So that's where we are on the Spruce Mill Promenade Extension project. So if you have any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Lacey.
I just wanted to add, thank you, Amanda, for that. So as Amanda started, she's been working on this for 6 years. The city has actually been talking about this for in excess of a decade at this point or more. We started the promenade, the main promenade portion when Berth 3 and Berth 4 were constructed. And it's been a very important piece of infrastructure for all visitors and for the public, for residents of Ketchikan. And this last segment that we've been discussing is really key, of course, to providing a continuous pathway that goes all through the waterfront of Ketchikan and provides a safe means of transiting downtown. As you all know, in the summer, when we have a busy ship day, we have pedestrians all over the place, and we've had many, many conflicts with vehicles. Luckily, nothing terrible has happened, but it's only a matter of time. And so projects like this that provide a safe, well-marked pathway for pedestrians, I think are really crucial to providing a good visitor experience in the community, lessening any conflicts between residents, vehicles, tour providers, and those visitors, and creating just a better experience for all. So we're really excited that this is finally hopefully coming to fruition with the help of the state. If you can speak a little bit to the cost of this project, that would be great.
So currently the project is estimated to cost about $5 million. We will have a local match, which I do believe, Michelle, is it be about $2 million for our portion? So it should be about $2 million for the city, which, I mean, not too bad. So, but most of the cost will come from that TAP that we were awarded. So.
Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah. The federal government. So one is Fish and Wildlife / maybe NOAA. This gets really murky. So the upper portion is the federal building, the pink building. That's GSA, and that cuts that blue building in half. And then the lower portion is the B portion of the lot, and that is owned by Fish and Wildlife, maybe, or it might be NOAA. That's what we're trying to figure out. And somehow that lot cuts that building in half. And so we need to know who or both that we need permission from. And it's increasingly difficult to get a hold of people right now as well. So.
Yes, Abby,
Am I allowed to ask a question on this project or?
go ahead.
Okay. Again, it's the same question I posed last time. Have we contacted our Alaska delegation or the federal delegation to help these hurdles of figuring out who owns what?
We are about to that point.
Okay.
We're working with P&D right now. They have contacted Fish and Wildlife and they have started to contact GSA. We've also talked with the state that is administering our grant, and they do have some funds within that grant to use for what they call right-of-way, and they can use that money to help us contact property owners as well, which they will use to try to facilitate it. And then Seth and I have been talking about calling our representatives, yes.
I would highly encourage on these big projects, it goes for anything on the port. Don't wait till the last minute for the delegation. Make those conversations known prior to before problems occur. Because I think you might have a little bit more support, and they could definitely, their staff can lend a ton of support to us on these hurdles to help speed it up.
Yep.
So this, again, this project has been ongoing, and one of the problems we have there is slope stabilization and whose lot we're stabilizing and who's going to pay for it type stuff.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the work Public Works has done to this to bring it to the point where we are today, where we can see the project through. And hopefully it goes off as smoothly as we're hoping in the future. But again, this is one of those amenities that we feel is advantageous to the transportation and moving the immense number of cruise ship passengers that come to Ketchikan, and provide them with a venue that's appealing to the industry overall. So thank you. Any other stuff on the promenade? So are you going to remain with us for the what?
Oh, I'm seeing this one
current
through.
activities?
It's my baby now. So we also do some other activities to get ready for the cruise ship season, one of which is pressure washing downtown. Historically, we have paid for this out of our Public Works Sales Tax Fund each year. We do put out a contract for a local contractor to go and do some pressure washing, and then we also have our streets crew do some of the work, and we usually offer that to some of our crew to do out of regular hours to give them the opportunity to get a little bit of overtime and a little extra work. Last year, we did a larger effort. We did all of Newtown sidewalks and Betty King Alley and just a bigger, broader area, all of the downtown sidewalks, and we did pay for that out of the tourism budget. This year, we did go back to the Public Works Sales Tax Fund to pay for the pressure washing. It's usually around $30,000 a year. And we would like to, in the future, partner with tourism more for this effort because it is directly tied to beautifying the downtown area for the cruise ship season. We also have installed some new bear-resistant trash containers on Creek Street and up on Married Man's Trail. Those, we put 5 in so far, and they're doing their job, and that's great because nobody likes in the summertime waking up to a bunch of bear trash strewn all over our beautiful Creek Street. We have 5 more on order. Those are being paid for out of CPV funds, and they're being installed by the streets crew. Do you have anything else? I think that's all I've got for, yep, that's all I've got for those. And
Yes,
then we
Abby.
also are doing, oh, sorry, Abby.
Question on the bear trash cans. Where all are you wanting to put them? Like, is it just a Creek Street thing? I know this project was prior to me coming back to the council, so I'm just.
We're slowly implementing them, I think, in all of the downtown core is the plan, as much as we can.
Yes, Lacey?
Just to follow up, so Amanda's right. We're trying to target areas where we've had historic bear people interaction. So Creek Street, Park Avenue, those sorts of places. We probably won't be putting them on the waterfront because we don't see bears on the port all that often, although they are known to go down there. But just again, trying to, I think, starting near the creek where we've historically had those types of interactions and we have trash bear issues, and kind of filtering out as we get closer to the waterfront.
And this isn't a cruise thing, but a city council thing. We are testing out some residential cans as well.
So are those bear cans for public passenger use? Are the facilities that reside on Creek Street, are they responsible for their own garbage at this particular point in time?
They are. Oh, I forgot to add, we do add an extra collection route each summer for the downtown area, Creek Street specifically, because the volume of garbage increases enough to add a specific extra trash route each summer.
Yeah, that's what my next question is the fact that as we add these cans, we got to add services.
We do, yes.
To do that. So there's a public works route that.
Yeah, there's an
that's just
extra
dedicated.
loops, and we do add temporary employees
Okay, thank
to
you.
service that.
Any other comments? Okay.
Transportation. So our Public Works Streets crew, I'll talk about this really briefly first. Each year during the nice weather that we have, we go through and in town on the streets that are our responsibility, we fill potholes, we improve curbs and sidewalks. We do painting, crosswalks and curbs and parking, and do just our general maintenance that we can do in-house. We have a reclaimer for asphalt that we use to do as much as we can on our own. And then we also contract with our one and only paving contractor, CCON, to get as much done as we can during the paving season, which also happens to be the tourist season. So we do that as much as we can. But this is the state's transportation project list for Ketchikan for this foreseeable future. Right now, I think many of you have heard that we had a project at Wolf Point, which is just north of our airport parking area. They were doing a slope stabilization, and during that time, we had a landslide that affected us greatly for transportation. That project was supposed to wrap up in October. That is no longer happening. They have built a bypass route around and they have paved it, thank you, which will greatly improve transportation through there for all of everyone coming from the north, including our passengers coming from Ward Cove, back and forth. That project will probably be extending long-term is what we see. I'm not quite sure when that will go back to normal. But at least we do have a paved bypass route that traffic will be able to run through, if not a little slower, but at least they'll be making it through there. In conjunction with that, there will be a paving project from that area north to Ridge Road, which is just a bit north of the Don King traffic light. They will be doing some shoulder work, digging out the ditches, and then doing paving so that you can expect delays from traffic. They'll be probably doing one lane flagging back and forth. Hopefully it won't be too disruptive, but that will be going into the fall. So there's that one. Next up, is the paving and sidewalk work that is running from the hospital to Elliott Street-ish, Whitecliff, no, Whitecliff. What's the dentist office? Evison's office. West Flight Building, that's what it is. It's the West Flight Building. They are working on sidewalks right now. Their goal, DOT's goal, is to have all of the sidewalks and paving done by the end of the summer. We're hoping that's the case and that it does not run into next year. I have a feeling it's going to be running into next year. So they will be working on those sidewalks for the greater part of the early summer. And then I think they will start paving on the northern side by the hospital. You can expect one-way traffic, lane closures, slower traffic. So there's that. On down to the Stedman-Dearmont intersection. That project is supposed to begin anytime now. They're going to do some safety improvements to the sidewalks and curbs in that area. It should be starting very soon is what we have been told from DOT. Let's see here. I think that's all we've
So
got.
since we're on Stedman and Dearmont, is there a potential that we could work with DOT to take a look at the speed limits and access in that area? Those are all reduced in regards to when there was a grocery store and liquor store there,
Yeah.
and the traffic was much different than it is today.
Mm-hmm.
So taking that in consideration, as DOT talked about crosswalks and speed limits and those associated things in regards to the change in use?
We can bring it up to them. It will spur a traffic study, and then we can, get it in their ear and see if we can get somebody to come and do a traffic study and see if it's warranted to bring the speed limit back up to 25 in that area, if that's what you'd like.
Thank you.
Yep.
Also, you were talking about the in-town Tongass Avenue sidewalk reconstruction and stuff, and I've heard some rumors that paving could also be held off until 2/26 if they don't get sufficient amount of work done on the sidewalk.
It could. It depends on how quickly they can get the sidewalk work done and move on to paving. And then it also will be weather dependent. So if we have a nice, dry, sunny summer and the paving crew is here and available, it could go smoothly and they could just pave the whole thing, get it done. If they run into issues, it'll probably run into 2026. So
Thank you.
see, they're moving pretty quickly on the sidewalks this summer. I feel like they're going faster than they did last summer. They're getting more done, but they still haven't looked over to the other side of the road yet. So, and then the last.
Can I just on the,
sorry.
we're talking about some of the closure or one-way
Mhm.
delays. Is there how long will those delays be?
We don't know. It really is paving dependent. So the paving crews come in and out of town. They don't stay here all summer, and they don't give us very much warning of when they're going to be here. So they'll tell us, a couple weeks in advance, hey, we're going to have a paving crew and they're going to be here for 2 weeks. And then they come and you'll be down to one lane while they're here, and they get as much paving as they can done, and then they go on to another southeast location because CCON is really our only outfit in Southeast Alaska, and sometimes they will give Southeast Alaska 2 paving crews to do work. A lot of times they only give 1, and so we're fighting with Petersburg, Wrangell, Prince of Wales, Juneau, all kinds of the other Southeast communities for that 1 paving crew, and so we're kind of at the mercy.
So then it would, obviously there's going to be a lot of communication that needs to be happening on a regular basis with transportation providers.
Yeah, so they typically do give out notices, and we disseminate those as much as we can to everyone with notice that, hey, they're going to be doing, blasting work at Wolf Point. There's going to have, this work is happening on Tongass Avenue, and we try to get that out as fast as we can to as many people as we can with warning so that everyone knows that this is happening.
Abby.
Speaking on delays and the communication, there are times that we don't get a lot of advance notice. As we've seen over the last month, we find out the night before what the traffic pattern is going to be the next day.
Yeah.
And so like for me, in terms of transportation, I mean, we have quite a bit that comes back and forth. We usually plan to have a team working after 6 p.m. because more than likely around 5 or so, they'll let us know, like, this is what you're looking at for the next day. And so it has been a lot of communication, but directly with the tour operator. It's kind of their responsibility to work with the ships and their tours and whatnot. So that is happening quite a bit behind the scenes. Some days the delays, they say there's going to be a delay and there's no delay. Like it's awesome and you just are cruising. They have the flaggers on point and it's great. And then there's other days where we aren't expecting delays and we're talking, 30, 45-minute delays. So it's really hit or miss. Truly every situation, it's kind of, did they uncover something while they were doing a task? And that could deter, or incur delays that we weren't expecting. But like I said, there are some days where they say there's going to be a delay and we're cruising around the island. So it's super hard, even though they give the announcements. As somebody who's dealing with it every day, you kind of just go the first bus in and they tell us what we should do the rest of the day. Or, check in every couple, we check in before our show, like an hour before the show, we get communication from transportation providers, like, hey, what's our delay currently? And then we adjust on the fly to make it happen. So yes, we would love to know ahead of time, but everybody's been super so far for the two ships we've had to be flexible.
And if we get notice that there's going to be a paving crew in town, we will definitely tell Lori and she can get the information out to everyone that, there's probably going to be some paving happening at this time. Be aware so that you guys can plan ahead.
So if they push the paving off until next year, it's not just a matter of bringing in a paving crew and paving the road. They got to bring in a crew to raise all the iron up in regards to doing that. And that takes some time and there's a lot of water services and sewer services within Tongass Avenue that have to be pre-prepped. And they'll probably have to do some grinding prior to.
Yep, they're starting that work right now. Yep.
Okay.
But
they won't be able to leave that.
Just recently.
They won't be able to leave that iron up over the winter, I would imagine.
No. So they're preparing.
Thank you.
Yep. And then the last traffic order of business I have is the potential for a traffic light at Schoenbar and Water Street. And that is at Berth 4. So DOC says that a light is warranted in that area. They've done some traffic studies and it is warranted based off of the pedestrian and vehicle traffic that they've seen. They're continuing to do more traffic studies in that area on peak days just to get counts and to verify. If they do decide to put that light in, it would be funding dependent. It would happen during the 2027 viaduct project.
Thank you. Jay, you had a question?
Yes, Jay. Sure.
How well the paving hold up and have it been set and we have landslide around there. Is it stable enough if these transportation issues are taking place that it won't slide again or and then they clear the debris that's still there?
So the state has had their geological team evaluate the rock and the berms that they've placed and they have determined that it's stable and that the berm that they've placed is going to be sufficient for the debris removal that they're doing. As for the asphalt that they have placed, I'm not sure if it will hold up to our kind of traffic that we're going to have on it all summer. We'll see how it holds. We are thankful that they did come and pave it because what it was before, I don't know if I have to drive through it every single day. It was awful. So we'll see how it holds up. I think if it's not wearing well, we can push them to try to repave it so that we can continue to move through there safely.
My second question is sidewalk construction, town hall, right, concrete still. It's by the West Side building.
Mhm.
Before we start getting, maybe when we start getting
So we have been talking to them about that in our weekly meetings every single time, and reiterating that that road is not going to hold up through another season because it's not, especially around the Kennedy Street, Newtown area is really, really bad. And so we have reiterated to them weekly that something needs to happen there because that road is not going to hold up another season. So, yeah.
Yes.
Regarding the stoplight,
Mhm.
last time I think we talked about what type of light it would be, permanent year round, or what will it be?
We're not sure yet. I think the consensus on our side is that it would be a seasonal light, that it would maybe flash yellow during the non-season would be our preferred.
Abby?
I know you kind of talked about the most recent impacts of transportation, but I would like to talk a little bit about the future of like 2026 and where their paving projects are looking to extend further down to the bursts, which I think would be a huge impact to the members at this table of kind of what does that look like coming down the line?
So that would be the viaduct project. And that would impact basically from where they're going to stop this project on Tongass through to the tunnel. And that actually isn't going to start until 2027 or later. And that would be a big, big project. They're going to, they can't really widen anything because they're pinned in on each side, but it would be sidewalks, guardrails, and resurfacing, and then also structural repair for underneath. And it would be a large impact. It would probably be one-lane traffic delays and all that. So it's still in the very beginning stages of design and planning. And so we're not sure like what exactly the impact would be, but it would probably be similar to what we're doing right now.
Thank you. So in regards to the traffic light, when we were talking to DOT, we did have discussions about the impact it has on the bus routes, the berth floor itself, the timing of all that kind of stuff, and whether a light would be advantageous or if it'd be a detriment. So we did suggest that they put a camera up to view that intersection and have recorded videos to go back to and see. And I think Abby brought up some particular days that we should be looking at that. And so we want to make sure that it doesn't hamper commerce and the ability of the community to move back and forth on Tongass Avenue. Because in the middle of summer, if you back up traffic for 5 minutes on Tongass Avenue, it's a quarter mile or half mile line by the time you're done.
Yeah.
So that's really important to us in regards to the flow, especially when you're coming into the downtown, because you have already have some street lights in play or a street light in play, and you have crossing guards in place. So it could become very congested very quickly in regards to how we move commerce through the community.
And I think that's why they're doing ongoing traffic studies. So they haven't just stopped the traffic study at the yes, it's warranted. I think that's why they're doing the ongoing traffic studies.
Thank you. Yes.
So I've been participating in the stakeholder meetings and there's other people in the room who've been in these meetings. They are working really hard with the stakeholders, all the different stakeholders that use AMLs in these meetings, the fish delivery guy are all in these meetings. They are looking at, what's the right word? Refurbishing, is that the right word? That intersection. So they're going to be reconstructing the curbs. They're going to be, if a light goes in there, there's going to be, it's not going to stay the way it is right now, and they're going to plop a light into it. They're actually they're going to refurbish that entire intersection, so it would be safer for pedestrians as well as vehicles that have to turn at that intersection. There will be a larger turn radius. And so there's a lot of thought going into how this whole intersection project is happening.
Thank you. Yes, Dick.
Yeah, I've worked that dock now ever since it's been built. And I'll guarantee you, I don't care how many studies DOT will do down there, it's not gonna change how you run it. A light will not improve that intersection. So listen to the people that work there and live there and use crossing guards to make it so that you can see what's coming. A camera on a light is not gonna be reflective of what needs to happen. So anyway, my opinion is just forget about the light. It's already been approved once and we shot it down. So let's just, anyway, that's just my comments, Bob, after having worked around there for 15 years.
Thank you, Dick. Okay.
I have one more thing, Mayor. The chart that you see up above is also printed out in a larger version for you to see when you have time to look at it. Also, that PDF is available on the tourism webpage on the city's website. So you can go to my webpage and you can click on that and you can see in much more detail and actually clearer. Right now, these plans are planned out to 2030. So you can take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item.
Any other questions? Okay.
There we go.
This is pedestrian walkways.
Sorry, that's okay.
So this year, we went to city council and we brought a proposal to them to kind of change up what we were doing on the port. As you can see in this picture here, this is kind of what was going on. People get off the cruise ships, they'd walk between buses, kind of just all over the port. So we're trying to figure out a way to kind of make it a safety-centric way of doing things. So the pedestrian walkway, like I said, a safety-centric response to keep pedestrians and vehicle traffic separated. We don't want any kind of an incident on the port. And what we have done, we placed planters in such a manner that acts as a walkway between Berk 2 and the Ketchikan Visitor Bureau. So what we like to do is get the folks off the cruise ships, get them towards that planters. We kicked that off this weekend. We had our first cruise ship down on the port, and I think that worked fairly well. We had folks setting up tours and excursions that waited in that little planter area and brought their folks over there, and that's where they kind of assembled. And I think, like I said, that worked pretty well. The other thing we're going to talk about is 30-minute limit staging will be enforced on the port and the Front Street extension. What this will do is kind of help keep the port flowing, keep things going. If you show up early and you're down there for 30 minutes and you're still waiting, we're going to ask you to go around so we can keep traffic moving. And there'll be a single road staging will be available on Front Street extension near the planters. And we used that a little bit this weekend. It did, what we did is Mr. Bisson looked at the port, and we realized that we actually needed to take the port over. We realized that the line was actually a little further over. So that's why we moved those planters over there. What we're asking the port pass holders to do is to utilize the port. Instead of staging on Front Street, if you've got a port pass, please get on the port. It just helps things move a little better. Those folks that can't use the port, then they can use the First Street extension to stage. And the one thing we want to keep in mind too is remember that Front Street is a street, and transiting traffic should not be impeded. So that's one of those things we'd like to keep in mind. In the past, they kind of double park. So this way they'll single park. We can still keep Front Street moving, and there'll still be a place to stage. And tour operators can gather their passengers within the passenger walkway like we just spoke about. And what we did is, if you look on the photo here, that green section, that's where the port planters are. And it allows traffic to flow a little better in there. So now there's probably about 3/4 of this you can use. There's a quarter there on the far side there near berth 1 that we have to leave open for the borough bus. So the borough bus will still be able to get in and get out. And we'll make sure that there's a line painted there. I think Port Operations is working on doing that. So just to talk about port preparations a little bit, we kind of kicked off the season, and kudos to Mr. Bisson. We have 16 new hires and 31 rehires, and that's just kind of a, when we have people wanting to come back year after year, that is a good thing, and that is directly related to Mr. Bisson and what he's been doing. So I appreciate what he's been doing and making sure that these folks want to come back year after year. We've been doing training. This is in particular with our new folks coming in. We're getting TWIC cards set up for these folks, making sure that traffic crossing and port safety and security, they're getting trained up and ready to go. Of course, we're pressure washing like crazy all over the port. This year, we got a contract in place to do a little port planter beautification work. We hired Cedar Hollow Botanicals. They've come in and put in, they cleaned up all the planters, put in plants that will come back year after year. And, I think as the season goes on, you'll see that those will fill out and those will look really good for the cruise ship folks coming in. It'll be a positive look for Ketchikan. And then, of course, we've been painting of crosswalks and things like that. So I can report that we're moving right along. We're not 100% done, but this early in the season, we've done a pretty good job. So hopefully everybody will be happy with the way the port looks, and to let you know that we're ready to go.
Yes.
Our street, they've done a great job with the number of people they have and not many. My pet peeve, Bill, is last 4 or 5 years I've complained about it, is that 13 minutes waiting. Signs are up there, but people take advantage of it, that doesn't sit there for hours. Hopefully we have enough enforcement this year, it's being enforced that. I mean, I hate having people enforce it, but if they are not going to follow the rules, we have to find a way.
Yes, sir. And I believe we're going to do that. I've talked to the port operations coordinator, and we'll be talking to port security folks. And we'll of course ask nicely, but that's kind of a symbiotic relationship. Folks driving buses, driving vans, things like that. If we ask you nicely to move, please do. Please work with us. I think as long as everybody's working well together, it will be a successful cruise season. So yes, we are going to try to enforce that, and we'll all be respectful of one another, and I think we'll move forward and do a good job. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Phillips, for being here and for this presentation. I'm just curious about the green passageway there, that the footpath then. What's the projected impact on the staging for transportation vessels and tour operators that have typically packed in pretty tight along that little stretch of the waterway?
There's, you know, there is an impact because what happened is there were two lines of traffic in the past that was taken up. And what had happened was actually the first row there used to be trolley traffic. And if you remember, we had the trolleys with the horses. That's who actually was allowed to park there before. When the trolleys with the horses went away, it kind of eased over and people started using that for a few years. When we started re-looking at what the footprint of the port was, the actual port. That's why we took some of that back, because the security plan actually says that you're supposed to have a port pass if you're on the port. And because it was further in, there was actually people on the port that shouldn't have been on the port, the technical port. So that's why we actually had to move that out as well. So there is an impact. But I think if we do that 30-minute rule to try to move people around, I think that will also help to alleviate it. Also, by having folks that actually have port passes, please go to the port. That's why you have a port pass instead of staging there. That should also free up that area for the folks that don't have port passes or can't get port passes. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, Abby.
So I do hear through many discussions that we need to encourage people with port passes to use the port. Does that, we all know that there's if a ship is not tied to the downtown docks, they can't use their port pass to move people. That's in an ordinance that the council passed. Is this something that we need to then look at to maybe change that if you're wanting to encourage, you know, people who have port passes to use the port instead of Front Street Extension? Or is this, we're just kind of telling them to fend for their own due to our ordinance? I mean, you keep saying use the port, but they have a port pass, but legally they're not allowed to use the port.
Yeah, please, because I'm.
Your Honor, yeah, if I can clarify that. So you're on the right track, but not quite. So what the Port Pass program is designed for and what is stated in our code is that commercial traffic is only allowed on the port for the purposes of conducting business with cruise passengers at the port. So if there's no vessel at the port, there's no need for a port pass.
Right.
Anyone can go on the port. So if you have a port pass and there's a vessel in port and you are servicing the passengers on that vessel, you are free to go on the port.
And that's what I'm asking is, so right now, a lot of people are using both lanes on Front Street Extension in the past. And then, I mean, people would be looping for 30, 45 minutes trying to get a space. But I just keep hearing, if you have a port pass, we encourage you to continue to use the port pass. The people who are on the Front Street Extension are the ones who can't use their port pass because of operational ordinances that we have. So I'm just saying, if we're encouraging people to utilize their port pass, should the council maybe look at making that a little more lenient so that if, you know,
It's not the council. It is also actually the Coast Guard as well. We have rules we've got to follow with the Coast Guard as well. So, you know, there's two lines of rules that we're kind of looking at. So, you know, I think part of the reason I keep saying is if you've got a port pass, you know, and you can use it, go to the port, it helps clear up that area for those people that don't have it. So that's, you know, and maybe that's a discussion down the road for council, but you know, I don't want to speak to that because I don't want to speak out of turn.
Dick.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I'm not too sure this is a discussion we should be having with our people that work with us, because this is a city management problem. We don't have a big enough dock for all the people that want to put a bus and a van on that place to serve the ships. And we've got to have a management plan. And I know we keep tweaking stuff. 30 minutes might help. But in that first 2 hours when that ship lands, there is no space on that dock for nobody. And I think the city, and I'm going to ask them to give me the numbers, continues to sell port passes with no limit. And there's not enough space unless somebody wants to build us floating docks on 1 and 2. That'll help. and give us more space on 4. But it's an important topic, but I'm not too sure we need to have the folks from the cruise line agencies in there. It's going to affect them, it's going to affect their passengers, but we got to solve the problem. And we can't sit on it.
Thank you, Dick.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Brings us on to the item regards public restroom. Lori.
So one of the issues that I've been working on since I've started in this position over a year and a half ago is the problem that we have with public restrooms. The downtown Ketchikan core does not have enough restroom facilities for everybody who's downtown. That's just, we know that. It's a truth. And we do have very nice facilities at Berth 2 through the Ketchikan Visitors Bureau, Berth 3 at the public restrooms at Berth 3. There's facilities down at Berth 4. We have public restrooms available at the museum, at the Tongass Historical Museum. And that's about it. There is what's called a Portland Loo over at Thomas Basin, which is only available to be used during the summer season because of weather factors. It's not a unit that you can use in the winter. So we've been looking at different ways that we can add more toilets to our downtown core. The city manager's office and myself and the Public Works Department has been working on finding places in the downtown area where we could install a temporary unit that would be close to utilities, which is really important. You'd be able to access sewer, water, and electric, as well as it being in a place that would be helpful for the visitors. And the place that we've landed on is at the Discovery Center parking lot. So right now you're looking down on the Discovery Center, which is that building kind of in the middle rightish area. I think I have a pointer. I do. So there's the Discovery Center. And the Lumberjack show's over here, Salmon Landing's over here. This is the 2 crosswalks that have crossing guards at Main Street. And this is 4 parking spaces in the corner of the parking lot where we feel that would be a good location for temporary restrooms. Part of the reason that'd be a good location for temporary restrooms is right here where all these lines come together is where we have electric, water, and sewer nodes. I don't know if that's the right word, Amanda, but easy access right there to electric, water, and sewer. Also, when people are looking for these units, they have crosswalks with crossing guards to help them get to that location. And there's a lot of foot traffic, as you know, that's going up into this area. What you may not know is that right up here is the fire station. So we don't want to put anything in this area that would block or create any kind of accessibility issues for the fire department. So this is the place that we are hoping and expecting to install a temporary restroom unit. We have deployed an RFP, which we are waiting for replies by May 1st. May 1st is the closing date for the replies on those. And then we are looking at getting a unit brought into the city this summer. The unit we're looking at will be direct to sewer, which means it'll be hard plumbed into the city's sewer, water, and electric. And we'd have multiple toilets and an ADA, family accessible, gender neutral unit, which would have a baby changing station. Just a way for us to help the people in this part of town have access to a facility. And I know much more than I ever wanted to know about portable restrooms now in my life. So if anyone has any questions, fire away.
Any questions? Yes.
So the parking lot's identified because there are no facilities inside the Discovery Center to be used?
That's correct. The Discovery Center used to have public restrooms, and now that I have this pointer, you used to be able to enter the building right here, and there was public restrooms before you went through the fee station. The Discovery Center is no longer operated in that way. Right now, this is the entrance, and you have to pay your fee here. And only people who've paid the fee to get into the Discovery Center has access to their restrooms.
It's portable, but I mean, is it going to be a permanent portable structure, or what does this mean in upkeep and maintenance and all of that?
So the city will be maintaining it. We'll have a cleaning crew that is most likely going to be the same cleaning crew that cleans the restrooms on the port. And it will be something that will be portable so that in the winter, we could pick it up, take it away, wrap it, winterize it, and keep it safe somewhere in the winter. It comes back out in the spring. Currently, that is 4 parking spaces, and that is a concern because where would those 4 parking spaces be made up? The Public Works, Streets, Police Department, Tourism, City Manager. We had a very fun meeting recently, 2 fun meetings actually, where we looked at the downtown core and where are places where we can find more parking spaces? Where are there some antiquated painting that was done that can change? Right now, the old fire station is now the distillery, and that sidewalk has never been refurbished to create a real sidewalk again. It still has the curb out for the fire trucks to come out. And the painting on that side of the street is also painting for when the fire station was still active. So there's huge yellow stripes that, looking at it with the KPD and streets crew, were like, wow, we can gain at least 3 parking spaces by refurbishing that curb there. So that's the kind of work we're doing to try to make up for parkings that we're losing.
There's also an ongoing discussion about putting a more permanent fixture in the downtown area, and most likely on the Stedman Street corridor. There's a couple of spots down there that have a potential for that we've yet to fully review. And again, this is one of those projects we'd probably be working in conjunction, or hopefully working in conjunction for funding with the borough. Thank you. Anybody need a break before we go on to the next one? Let's go ahead and take a short break and fill your coffee cup to use the restroom. So I think you were probably looking for a document in regard, I had one of you guys. Yes. So this is the borough's PPP funding 5 years plan. In this 5-year plan, if you look at their expenditures, they're going to put into transportation a considerable amount of money. And then this is their North and South Tongass Fire Department that they're putting. Those are the big. I heard about the park. Yeah. And so this is the amount that they're going to put over the 5-year period, 11 million into passengers. And this 5 million, which they'll be putting into the fire district.
So are they actually building, this is just
No,
funding positions in the fire department, or?
Equipment, positions, all that kind of stuff, right? And this is just kind of the breakdown of the CCV money itself.
Thank you. So I have the message to you.
It was just information that I gathered, right? Interested in it, and I think that it was It's a chunk of money and where we own the majority of the infrastructure and the majority of the passengers are within that.
Yeah.
We're not having those funds. So the only thing we can make that up on is the warpage fee.
Yeah. You gotta, like, tie on those dots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that traffic in there when the ship, that's.
It's not. And, you know, we gotta come up with a better parking, passenger, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways, as you know, is to control that kind of stuff is a fee structure. And so that's what I'm looking at. And with AI, I think we can automate a lot of that. You pull onto the board, your clock starts, just like a cab, clock starts giving. You get out of there in a certain amount of time, doesn't, you know, your port pass covered, but if you stay over, you get charged so much, a 5 minute or 10 minute or 20 minute, whatever we decide.
Yeah.
But then it gives us,
Yeah, Uber's in there.
yeah, but then it gives you the full information on the port use. Yeah. And we don't have a good handle on that.
Yeah.
And so you get somebody like Cape Fox that goes out and buys 24 vans one year and they buy another 20 the second year, but you got all these new vans looking for access, right?
Yep.
And like Dick said, they're just not.
So.
Well, you know.
Everywhere, as you talk about spending that much time finding 3 parking spaces, it's.
Yeah, and you work with the Coast Guard and stuff, and you don't realize that.
Just saying hi.
How are you?
Good. Yeah, here for the show.
So I understand that. I don't need to have car insurance from them. I can buy anything.
Just crash into our building, you know?
Yeah.
You know, everybody's doing it. You can be drunk, not insured. Yeah.
That's a cool thing to do, you know.
Yeah. But they're gonna open tomorrow, so it didn't damage any product, got it short up.
We probably would add more attraction for you have a building.
Yeah, we just, that, every room around that type thing. So the white. Yes, it's fine, yeah, thank
You
God.
could have left the car for the track.
Yeah, real life Alaska. Yeah, that's next door. Yeah, come see inside. Yeah, it's done now. It's all. That's it. That's our big project. You know, with those stuff, because the same group that I'm part of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we've got a lot going on. It's huge, yeah, so it's, but whatever, we've got. No, but it's. But we did it, and it's all under sort of control now, and people are.
Yeah.
So we've got. All the ships downtown. One, it's downtown. The ship around here. That's awesome. We'll keep buses on the road.
Yeah, I was gonna say, again, I mean, ultimately, you gotta get the, you got transportation issues.
Yes,
Bypass, you gotta get the big.
that's right. Spread. Yeah.
Create attractions, bring up, come in.
That's exactly it. So that, you know, open it that, you're less time there now. This will be later. We've got this little village that we're setting up that'll be full of local retailers and new entrepreneurs setting up. Infrastructure going in, the distilleries opening up a bigger footprint. Yeah, so locals are excited. We're excited. So, yeah, 2026, man. Yeah. What's your big report on the planet right now that you're having to?
Spend the most amount of time. We announced, it should have said it. So we built another person in Mexico.
Great, thanks. Good to see you.
Same.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What about this one up here? Are you gonna put perfect day and AK? Or are we gonna? No?
That's what I'm aware of. No.
Oh, okay.
We got the perfect day started with.
Yeah.
You know, small.
Well after.
Okay.
But I didn't know.
Smaller person.
Okay.
All the parents will open the first Beach Club.
Well, you know, I could give
This December.
Okay.
And then,
I got you.
it's business, one in Mexico, see how they do.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
I guess we'll see you at wrestle too.
So,
And then stretch your leg.
yeah, we'll see. But in the place you need me, I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Yeah.
Good, Sheriff. Sheriff is.
Get a funny hat. Yeah, good hat.
You're up.
Yeah, sure. Very good. I mean, somebody's to give them.
Too big. Oh, we got.
Which people in the bottom. This is the.
Lost whole minute. I'll check. Yeah, we stop, yeah. We'll come out.
Yeah, but we're, rest of them.
My plan was to bring everybody out, and so I.
Big blow.
Yeah. I was gonna give me a- Well, ready?
No, you're here. I just, she was doing it.
Well, it might be because.
They're good, he's in.
Are
you going up to the show?
I just, I was like, where is your star?
Isn't that next?
Oh, so next week.
We need the first one.
Where you?
Yeah. I don't know. I never.
Dinner, Mike Stanton.
City has all the places. Oh, cool. That's, yeah.
So we.
Yes.
And then.
No, I don't. That's the other day.
Well, you know.
No. Why? It's just. Yeah.
So I can.
You go up to that.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling the mayor.
We get some are ones like
Everything is.
well, we're officially moving for them. Yeah.
Well, it's the.
They're already spending.
So it's like.
Yeah.
Get there.
Yeah, now it's for building, probably selling an extra. Building is like big wall.
Yeah. Life's good.
Like tall, anyway. Yeah, yeah. And like. Yeah, so.
Thing like.
Fast and so it's, and so I think either or Friday. I've seen some hospital, but we're that's in Friday.
Next.
That's what's about to look at.
I have. But I think.
This one might be. Yeah, that's a fair argument. But yeah. Right, because there'll be new people here. October, what's happening.
Well, we're still in.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and it seems like I can apply in your. Yeah. I think it's behind these 4 days. Yeah, so take a chance. Yeah, but tomorrow. Yeah.
Yep.
There is.
It's like when you went.
Yeah, at least.
Did they do their study last year? Yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. Thanks. Smelled on her. It smelled out. It didn't. So I went, it's kind of. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah.
How you been, lady?
Exactly, yeah. Having fun. You sent that to me in a text or something, yeah. So that's cool. Good prompts. When does he come out?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fun.
Later. Okay, yeah.
Keeps you busy. It's not like those horse.
That'll be later. Yeah. Yeah, and my niece as well is coming back. She's like your older. Yeah, I think so. Graduate. Yeah, exactly. Well, so my brother-in-law's auditioning for her to get to.
Absolutely.
Seven guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a widow. And now they're all three.
Go through the dock, they be all out of back. So other than that, stay.
Oh, true perspective, exactly. He's like,
I'm sure the tunnel is gonna be.
He knows how to use it. All right. Deal.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It was close. I remember. Might have just been off. Yeah, but it was, yeah, I was thinking timing. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's because he's going to shifts, right?
His discussion is meeting on it. It's like, I don't think it'll, maybe internet, yeah.
And he's more interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just trying to figure out what how like everyday texting. What about dude? I've been trying.
I think.
That's the problem, right? Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. He was like, maybe I'll go up there. I'm like, yeah. I told Gavin the same thing. I'm like, there's an opportunity, just let me know. Hey. How are you?
Hi.
I love to go.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really.
It's
a lot of.
And big. Yeah, I got. I was trying to do dinner with her.
Nice working.
You want to come help out? These are like,
They hit the ball and they run for third base. Slightly better.
Right now is her. Each other before it goes. And so if it's.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can, right.
Guys.
Yes.
What do they think about?
All counts. I actually. Just.
Yeah.
There's no example of every day.
High school, buddy.
Oh, that, yeah, that field, yeah. That field. That way. Is that the grandstand? Whoa. I've seen three first walkable.
I have.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, so.
I
These three terms other places, so, behind you. Well, that's.
But you're going to 4, but you're not going to a parking lot.
It'll be better for the battery.
So just, and we share it, and she's exiting, but even if it's just the.
Yeah, those must be able to peel off.
Yeah.
And not plug up. Like, that was such a great idea, that, like, I'm not thinking outside the box. I spoke to somebody, whether or not there would ever be an option.
Well, that's actually, that's.
Yeah, really mind blowing, right? And I was told that. Yeah. Absolutely. No.
Yeah, it's on the line. Lower the.
Because that ground, they don't predict.
Go.
Paul picks up the feed and hits the ground.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. No, it's,
Okay.
yeah, basically.
You can take that later, man.
Because it's one day.
My favorite.
Right? Like, it's already.
I'm surprised that.
All right, can we come back to order?
I mean,
People just.
I know so many times that I've seen people go through that. Yeah. And look at it.
All right.
Yeah.
Right, we call that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That's going to bring us on to item C, port cost allocation study. Lacey.
So this is a little bit of a recap because we did talk about this. Uh-oh. So we did talk about this at our November meeting, but we wanted to just give an update on this. So the city commissioned what we had termed a port cost allocation study with McKinley Research Group to do a cost analysis of the impacts of tourism beyond the Port Enterprise Fund. So the financial impacts of tourism to essentially general government and the general fund. We did the work, and last summer, McKinley came to Ketchikan and performed interviews, dug into our financials from 2023 because those had been audited and those were complete to prepare their report. They presented a final report to the City Council in October of this last year. Following a fairly lengthy presentation and discussion with the City Council, and the City Council accepted that report. I believe we shared the final report with industry in advance of our November meeting. So industry has had the opportunity to review it. I don't want to speak entirely for CLIA, but I believe after that review, there were no glaring concerns or issues. Many of you are familiar with these types of reports because similar ones have been commissioned in Juneau, in Sitka, and other major port communities. So since that time, we have been working internally to figure out how to apply the data that was generated in that report. That report did not say, it was not a recommendation on how to apply port revenues to other funds that are impacted by tourism. It was simply stating what those impacts and those costs are. So since that time, we've been working and having conversations with the city council on how to apply that. And it's not a simple, straightforward answer. There's a number of different ways that the city will need to go about this to recuperate costs and essentially square up with those tourism-related expenses. We are hoping to have further conversation with our city council in the coming months. We're slated, we don't have a date yet, but as we've done in the last couple of years, we do a meeting with the city council to get some direction for our next year's budget before we go into those discussions. So we have kind of a high-level overview. And at that time, that would be a good time for the city council to provide final direction on how they'd like to apply and utilize that report and have it incorporated into the 2026 budget draft. That's essentially where we're at. Laurie, I don't know if there's anything further you would like to share. I think you probably shared most of it at the November meeting in terms of the process and those sorts of things. So if there's any questions from the industry, happy to try to answer those. Sort of jumping ahead to the next topic, but this report was provided as part of the draft MOU that we've been in discussions with CLIA about as an exhibit, again, to sort of substantiate some of the impacts, the tourism-related impacts to general government. I think I'll stop there if there's any questions.
So for the council, we don't always have to know the details of how the port operates, but we get the information back in regards to what our expenses are and what our revenues are. And it's always been a challenge to go through those and try to find out what the priorities are. The city of Ketchikan recently, and not just in regards to the port, but into our utilities, we're working with a firm and have a program now where we can input all the data in regards to operating a division. It could be involved with debt service, maintenance costs, the personnel costs, all that kind of stuff can go into it. And it'll hopefully spit us out a number that we will have discussions about to see how we meet that number. So I certainly appreciate staff working to bring more fact-driven data back to us in regards to how we manage those. So it's not a by guess and by gosh, it's actually going to be in regards to actual cost. And in some places, we're not covering our costs with the revenues that we're receiving. And so we'll have to address those at the council table. So that brings us on, is there any questions in regards to what we're doing here? Hearing and seeing none, brings us on to item B. Lacey.
So as I just mentioned, sort of the impetus of having these twice yearly, if not more often, meetings with industry is the development of a memorandum of agreement between the city and Cruise Lines International Agency, or Association, excuse me. This is something that the city and the industry has talked about for several years, but really only started in earnest in less than a year, I suppose, in terms of developing a draft agreement. We've been working on this for quite a while. We started at a very low level, just sort of staff to staff, in terms of discussing what would be the key components of a memorandum of agreement. I will add that a lot of this was, this might not be the best word, but inspired by the agreement that's in place between CLIA and Juneau. There's a lot of good aspects to that agreement that industry had mentioned time and again might be worth considering in this agreement. And so that was sort of a starting point. Again, we started at a low level in drafting an agreement, and then that agreement went to the legal divisions of both the city and CLIA, in which it was further refined and became a bit more substantial of an agreement than I think either party had initially anticipated, which was great. It was great to have more detail and more clarity. Back in February, our city council provided final comments on that agreement, and then it was provided to CLIA for their review. And at this point in time, not to put Lainey or Renee on the spot, but they've been doing their own internal review. And so the city's just at a point where we're awaiting feedback and figuring out how we move forward with that agreement and how we continue to refine it. If we're on the right track, if we need to pivot, how we make this agreement and the relationship that agreement is trying to codify the most useful and beneficial for both parties.
So first, it's been a lot of work, a lot of back and forth, and Laurie and I have worked on this, like Lacey said, for the better part of a year. I think we've kind of gone far beyond what the intention of this was. It is much bulkier, and we started out with the absolute purpose of keeping it simple. I will turn it over to my member Cruise Lines here to offer further comments. The intent was not to have a document modeled so closely after our settlement agreement in Juneau. The purpose was to avoid that and have something that got us to the table, that kept us on track, that kept any new city council members up to date on what the process is, and to absolutely identify those projects that are beneficial to help support the passengers and the ships that come here. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Wait. Over to you, Jack. Yeah, I think from our perspective, I think Lainey did a good job summarizing it. And we started with, I think, 1.5 pages of text, and it's now 7 pages. And honestly, I have a hard time understanding it. It's complicated. It contemplates 2 different zones that have rules around spending. And I just think, yeah, I just sort of like, let's take a step back and get back to what was the purpose. Because I also think that there's a risk of unintended consequences with something that's this complicated. And I think if you ask Juneau, they would probably do their agreement differently than we certainly would. So yeah, I think that's just where our point is maybe the lawyers got dug in and felt like they needed to do what they needed to do. But where we're at now is I think, a little more complicated than what we'd envisioned.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I think that we probably need to go back and revisit what were the original goals of this when we started. And I, like Robert, have a hard time reading through the 7 pages of it. And I think there was, in essence, we were doing the right thing. But if we could just stand back and say, okay, there's 2 or 3 goals that we need to have through this, to set up how this relationship's going to work kind of at a high level. And I think if we refer back to some very key things about, how we spend CVV funds just in a really general manner that, conducive to how the state of Alaska has us as written and not a Juneau settlement agreement, I think is better. And just that we're going to meet a couple of times a year and that we're going to continue to collaborate very, very high level terms just to put pen to paper for this MOA. And we really want to get this right because it could mean other communities want this too. So I think this document, we should be a leading example of things that we may want to do with the other communities. And I think a lot of people will be viewing it that way. So I think simpler is better.
Yes.
Just Robert, so you mentioned the 2 different zones. Just wondering what the issues are around the 2 different zones for you.
Just the necessity of it. Again, I think we what I think we had contemplated was something that just brought us together to have a conversation about the various projects and how to fund it and where priorities were, so that we were on the same page to the extent we were. The city always reserves the right to spend their money as they need to, but the zone issue in Juneau has not been, in my opinion, helpful. Well, it's spelled out how it should be spent, and then there are things that don't conform to that still happen. So the kind of question is
why did they bother?
Yes, go ahead.
I was going to ask Mr. Mayor or Lacey, how do we, I know the sort of the cruise companies have provided feedback, or the industry has. I'm not sure, I think Lacey, you started out by saying you had sent over a document to CLIA. You were awaiting feedback. I'm not sure if this is the feedback. And we can maybe just get a working team together, or would you prefer us to prepare like a summary of these comments and transmit them to you? And then I just want to make sure that we get you the information that you need in the way that you need it.
Yeah, I think thank you for that, Russell. I think that's a really good question. I think this is the time for that feedback. And so gathering it here is really good. I'm going to defer to the mayor on what type of process would be most helpful. I think it sounds like industry has a pretty solid and unified front on what they believe the intent is of that agreement. If you want to summarize that and then give that to us, and then we could put together a working group of, just a small working group, a couple city representatives, a couple industry representatives, to hopefully make that into that 1 or 2 page, very simplified, high level document. I think that would be the best way to go. But Mayor Severenson, if you've got opinions or thoughts on it.
So I agree. I think it's going to be easier to reduce this document than it was to expand it. And I think that, I think in the spirit of collaboration and being able to work together, we have the principles of what we want to do. I think we could reduce this language to something that reflects that very easily. And my intent would be, I know that you have a document, we have the document. I don't disagree that the zone didn't make much sense to me, because if you're going to make expenditures in the area, we're going to be talking about those anyway. It doesn't need to be zone related, because the community is expanding, or there, different things go on that may facilitate a conversation later on that this may just get in the way of. So I think keeping it as simple as possible is easier, because there's going to be people dealing with this after Lacey is off and I'm gone off the council, and people have moved on. And so the simpler the better, so they don't have to try to figure out what the intent was. So I think there's already been a group exchanging documentation. I think that if we come back through those groups with some edits in regards to what we want to reduce, I think that'd be the best plan to move forward with this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other comments in regards to the agreement? And thank you for coming back with that thought, because when I sat at this table the first time, our agreement isn't born out of a lawsuit. It's born out of mutual cooperation and the understanding that that things need to grow. And we learn from our mistakes, right? Like you say, if the zone thing's not working out, we probably need to get rid of that. And we've been talking long enough now that I think that we understand the intent of the industry. And I think that you understand that the city is willing to work as a collaborative member in regards to growing and managing tourism. Dick.
Yeah, it may be repetitive, but for years, mainly what we've talked about is just looking at projects, what you need, what we need to get the job done, and listing them and agreeing to them.
Yep.
We can kiss it really easy if you get what I mean. So let's just make it simple and agree upon where we need to go to keep your passengers happy in town, and we can keep the city people happy.
Yep. Thank you. Yes, Abby?
This owl is in our way here.
Yeah, I know. I see.
So I will have to say, I do agree that somewhere, some way, it ended up being a very long document. I know I just got presented with it yesterday, or I don't know, today's Wednesday, Monday. And so it is a lot to try to grasp. I was part of the group that kind of encouraged this to happen, and then I read this and was kind of like, wow, it kind of did expand a little bit. So I think that feedback of hearing that from you guys as well kind of reiterates we had really good intentions. I think both sides had really good intentions, but I do think it is awfully specific in some areas and general in the others. And I think maybe we need to go along that line and kind of to follow what Dick said. So I appreciate you guys be willing to share that information and feedback from Juneau's. I don't think our intention was to be like Juneau, but it's definitely, as I heard you guys mention, other communities are going to want to follow this. Well, we got the idea from Juneau and others will get it from us. So we understand that kind of perspective from your guys's, but we do want to encourage engagement sooner rather than later on these projects. I know we've had it out there since February and now it's April and we're just now circling back around. So even though we have these meetings set, we do need to keep that communication from both sides happening continuously throughout the year, even when we're not all sitting at the table, because that's how we're all going to be successful and make sure that the way other communities are right now doesn't happen in our town, because we don't want to be that way. Yeah. So thank you guys for the feedback today, and we're excited to see where it goes.
Thank you, Abby. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we go down to item 7, which is additional discussion. So what else do we have before us? So one of the things I'm interested in, and we're seeing it in all the ports, and there's a lot of conversations about port electrification. And so the regulations that are coming down in regards to carbon and other things is driving some of this port electrification. Is there any new information from the industry in regards to time schedules, what they're looking for, any of that type of stuff at this point? Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, I'll sort of start. I mean, I think that's a very expansive question, Mr. Mayor. It's a great question to ask. I think as it relates, I know earlier today we were in a meeting and Robert was sort of talking about the way cruise companies sort of have to, we calculate and measure our carbon output and, we create itineraries. It's one of the things that goes into the formula. But I will say as it relates to our Alaska itineraries, a lot of the electrification work happens at the home ports. So Seattle, for example, has been very aggressive with a timeline about installation of electric at the port, and then sort of requirements for cruise companies to go through a process to certify vessels and then to plug in to shore power at the home port. And so that sort of drives the work. I mean, long story short, we support shore power. We love to use it. I think I know it's a large capital expense for the ports. And I think there's a lot that goes into it. Some ports have been very successful with respect to federal funding. Some have had to do it on their own. The cost of infrastructure differs in places wildly. And they have large power sources that are close to the port. Some have to run lines underwater or across town. And so I think as long as, we work with our partners and, as long as the source of power makes sense economically and we, sort of understand the cost of it and for the installation of it and us for the use of it, we certainly support it as we support the environment. But I think almost every single port has gone through a different experience electrifying their docks. And so there's a lot of good information out there, case studies from different ports around the world. But it is getting a little bit more difficult to do it because some of the federal sources of funds to offset the cost are just not available right now. That doesn't mean they won't be, but we're all sort of waiting to see. So, but we certainly will support you, and if we can, work with the city to help you, plan and design your infrastructure, we're always happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. And that's part of my question. Ketchikan is a pass-through port. And I've had some conversations with the captains of your ships where they come in, they're either pointed north or they're pointed south. And some of the ships that we have today don't have the hookups on both port and starboard side of the ships. So how are they going to utilize that? And then when you look at a small community like Ketchikan, we do have, we're spending, I don't know, 60 gigawatts of power a year that we could fortunately utilize in port electrification. But if we take a long-term loan out to do this, and it's very expensive for Ketchikan to do that, how long is the industry going to be needing it? Are they going to utilize it? The length of stay in a port makes a difference. So if you're in Ketchikan for 4 hours, are you going to take all that time to plug in and not plug in and turn your ships off? I don't see that as a reality. So for us, we need the best information we get as to the viability of Ketchikan to be in that port. And if the cruise industry is forced to slow down, extend their trip from 7 days to 8 days or 9 days, whatever the federal government thinks you should do. How does that affect the calls in the individual ports in Alaska? Are you going to bypass some? Are you going to change the venue? Are you going to stay longer in some? I don't know. And I know that Seattle is kind of the main spigot in this, because how you come in and out of Seattle is a big part of how you manage your trips in Alaska. So that's kind of the stuff I'm looking for in regards as the mayor, and how we move forward with the development of any infrastructure in regards to electrification.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Bob. I think those are all really good questions that we just don't have clarity yet on today. And, but what I do think is that, we have been asked the question before, will a biofuel or a completely green fuel replace the need for shore power? And I think Jan Olaf wants to say something too. It will not. We will still need shore power. And I think that we're going in strong with that message in Europe as well. We're still going to need that ability to plug in, because, we're not sure, number one, how much this new fuel is going to cost and what the burden that we're going to bear for the new fuel. We're not sure how far can we go with that new fuel. We know that we run a hotel inside that ship, and that hotel draw is quite large when we're sitting alongside. And I would encourage anybody that has green power, like hydro, such as yourselves, should really seriously think about shore power, because we will need it for a long period to come. And will our itineraries look different in the future? Yes, absolutely they will. But I think Ketchikan is such a good draw. There's so many things to do. You've got such a great name in the Alaskan itinerary overall that people want to see it. So maybe that means, maybe there's only 3 ports in Alaska, but I can see that Ketchikan would continue to be one, but we would differentiate. We could differentiate our cruises based on what ports you go to, and just selling a different way. But I'd love to hear from Jan on this too.
No, I just wanted to back you on your statement that shore power will be crucial also in the future, independently of what kind of fuel that will come, because shore power will play a role anyway. And we also see that now in Europe. You get the more renewable fuel you are using, you get sort of compensated for that, right? Because you have to do your, you have to tell about your consumption and so on. And if you manage to reduce your consumption, you get sort of an award for that. and it's beneficial for us. So shore power will be crucial for the future as well. And you can see almost every one of us is using a lot of money to implement or re-implement shore power in our ship and also in our existing fleet. So shore power will be important.
Thank you.
Full stop, as Renee normally says.
I'll jump in with my 2 cents as well. Again, I agree as well that shore power is always going to be a part of our overall efforts to operate and continue to operate. For context, we're regulated by the IMO, International Maritime Organization. And the IMO sets a variety of different schemes and rules in place in order to drive reduction of greenhouse gas globally. And so there's different mechanisms in place. And currently, the way that is measured is by a measure of what's called carbon intensity. And it's basically a measure of how much carbon do you produce per operating hour or per time. And it's not a perfect measure. It doesn't work great for crews, but it is the way things are measured. So the way that the way the rule works is every year you have to get a few percent better, and you literally get a grade every year on your vessel. And if you get a D or an F for a couple of years in a row, you got a problem, right? So for the cruise lines and for any shipping, this applies to all shipping, by the way, not just cruising. In order to continually comply with those rules, you have to continually improve. So where the most of shipping has been focused initially is on efficiency improvements you can make on board your ships, your air handling, LED lighting, hydrodynamic hulls, things that make the ships move through the water more efficiently. But there's an end to that. You can only get to a point where a ship is so efficient with an existing power plant, right? And so the other way that ships can help reduce their carbon is by slowing down, because emissions are sort of logarithmically worse as you go faster. And this is very pertinent for Ketchikan, because Ketchikan is often the first port or the last port on an itinerary and is at the end of a high-speed run between Seattle and Ketchikan or Vancouver and Ketchikan. That's one of the reasons why port calls have shortened over time, for those of you who've been around, because ships need to slow down. They can't run at 20 knots like they used to high speed, hightail it. The other issue is there are speed slowdowns between here and Seattle for whale waters and port restrictions into Victoria and things that also slow the vessels down, which eats into port time. So where a shore power rolls into all of this is when you're plugging in, you dramatically reduce your emissions, right? And so the way that we look at shore power and kind of the business case for it is time in port. So oftentimes it's turn ports that are electrified because they tend to have higher volume and longer calls than transit ports, but transit ports are increasingly starting to electrify. Mind you, Juneau was the first one in the world for cruise, and it's a transit port. So when you look at a port, we just look at how many hours are we alongside annually, and that kind of helps you to gauge whether or not a port is going to make a meaningful return in terms of the carbon intensity reduction or not. And then the other benefit of shore power is the reduction of localized emissions. So our worry is the greenhouse gas, your worry is localized emissions, right? So that the air is cleaner that you breathe because you're plugged in versus being on conventional fuel. So in a feasibility study, what they would do is they'll take all of that data and come back and sort of present to you as a community not only the cost and sort of what must be true in order for shore power to be technically completed, but also what is the business argument that goes with it, i.e. how would you pay for it, and what is the benefit to the user, right? Because you don't want to go spend a bunch of money and then have ships not plug in. And so a simple way to look at it is if you have let's say an 8-hour call, you can take an hour off at the beginning, an hour off at the end that we're not plugged in, because it takes time to tie the ship up, get the gangways in place, all that stuff, then they plug in the vessel. And the reverse of that happens at the end. So when you look at your total port hours, it's not even the total amount of time in port, it's the total amount of time that you can operationally truly connect a ship in port. And that can help. So from a port, you could look at it from a berth perspective is how often is that berth used and total port hours. And then when you have all of the cost and sort of operational stuff to come in with it, you can start to get more of a broad business case. So our encouragement typically is for a port to do an actual formal feasibility study. So it's not just the utility saying, hey, I got power to sell. That's great. But where is the power and how expensive is it going to get from where it is today to where the actual ships dock? And I can tell you, whatever you think it is, you probably could double it because it is very expensive to tear up city streets. You need to have a substation down on your dock, so you need to have a footprint for that. The utility would likely need to make upgrades as well, which we've seen. So it's complicated. So you have a formal feasibility study done, and it will really help lay out what would the cost look like, and then what would the sort of business case be. And the last piece I'd say in the business case is one of the reasons why shore power works well on the West Coast in the US and was on the West Coast before it was elsewhere is cheap power, hydropower. At the end of the day, if the rate of power is competitive with fuel or even better than fuel, you'll see a lot more support for shore power than if you're going to have a power rate that is exorbitant. And so we see tremendous variety from port to port in the rates that we're charged for power. And so it's part of the consideration for your users to attract shore power is ultimately what is the cost of that different, it's basically fuel, right? It's a different kind of fuel is what would that cost look like? And that can help or hurt your business case with your users as well.
So Robert, you mentioned the fact that we can go through these feasibility studies, and I imagine the cruise lines have been doing that with other ports for some time. So what is available to the city of Ketchikan if we move into this port feasibility study? And Russell alluded to that I'm sure the cruise industry can provide us with quite a bit of information on regards to power needed, all that other kind of stuff. So how do we initiate that and get started in the city of Ketchikan in regard? Do we have to deal with each individual cruise line, or is there a clearinghouse where we can get this information in general?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mayor. So what I've seen several ports, the others can chime in. What we've seen successfully work in some of the ports is they'll, first of all, get a stakeholder group together, which brings the utility, the port or the port authority, whatever the governing entity is. If there's any private owners within that, I think some ports are organized differently, right? So some of the property can be private. The city planning department and the cruise lines, and there may be others not there, but hiring a professional firm that has done feasibility in this space. Bermello and Ajamil is a good example. They've done it with a number of ports. There are others out there, and we can connect Lacey or whomever with some ideas.
We can connect that.
Getting the info from the cruise lines is easy as far as like what our power requirements are, what the configurations are. But pretty much every port today, when they install shore power, does what's called a mobile power unit, connection unit, because some ships have it in port, some are in aft, starboard. They're all even within our own fleet, they're not the same. So you want to be able to have the flexibility there. But having an engineering firm that has done shore power before lead that feasibility, I think is really important, because otherwise you may not have quite all the expertise that you need. And I don't know any port. I mean, even big ports like Everglades and Galveston, who are 10x the size of any Alaskan port, will hire external contractor to help them through that process.
If you can connect with Lacey and get some information over to somebody that we can talk to, and how we're going to gather that information, that would be great. And as I understand in the operations, like you said, there's a lag when you arrive at port, and then there's a
you gotta disconnect early as you're leaving port because there's a lot of stuff that happens in between. And if I remember right, you have to have a lineman or electrician online to make those hookups, right? And then, I know Juneau was the leading edge in this kind of stuff and probably the bleeding edge because there's probably better port connection now than when we first started. So anything that we can get in information to make it, we have the latest and greatest and easiest type to operate that benefits both the ship and the community would be great.
Yeah, that's right. To your first question, Mayor, yeah, there's typically, it's either from the utility or it's a lineman hired through through organized labor or whatever. The ship also has the electro superintendent who comes ashore, so it's sort of a joint process, and that's to plug in and then to unplug. Juneau is, yeah, it was the first. It's a fixed unit facility, meaning that there are ships that we have docked there that can't plug in because it's on the wrong side of the ship, which is not ideal, but
Not
wasn't
ideal.
contemplated 23 years ago or whenever it was built. So.
And as I understand, there's a long lead time on all this equipment, transformers now 1.5 to 2 years before we can get one even in place, so.
I know that a lot of you are in Seattle from time to time, and so I would encourage you, if you are in Seattle, to go and see the connection at Pier 66 because it is one of the newest. All the piers in Seattle now are electrified. But Pier 66, the commissioning was just done last fall, so it is one of the newest ones that's on a flexible connection head. And even if you went down on a Saturday and you watched, the interchange, you could see the complexity of it too. It's not, and we would even, encourage you to go on the ship side and see what's done on the ship side for this. But it is a slow power up and a slow power down. So that when they come in, it's very orchestrated how they do it. So sometimes, and I think they'll get faster at this, but sometimes it can be up to an hour to connect and then up to an hour to disconnect. Because as you disconnect as well, you need to make sure all your systems are operating. It's all done in the engine control room. I just had a tour of this when I was just on our newest ship. And it's quite interesting and for an engineer to watch that hasn't seen this before, but to watch the sophisticated systems on board as they take on the power and as they switch the load from the fuel load into the electrical load. And I would encourage anybody if you wish to go. We can work with Port of Seattle and the Bliss of the Encore and see it.
So we can contact Port of Seattle directly as regards to access to watch this process go on?
Yeah, it has to be on it has to be on one of our turn days though.
Okay.
So, that's weekends, but I just know that a lot of you go to Seattle regularly, so it might be a good opportunity. And then contact me as well and we'll get you on board so you can see both sides of it. It's interesting. It's a fascinating process, I think.
That'd be excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. And just one more thing I just want to add to this too is all of us cruise lines are still spending a lot of money when we dry dock our ships to make them onboard power, to give them the capability for onboard power, shoreside power. And so as you see that we're continuing to kind of retrofit our own ships, our older ships, you'll see that that's still very important to us and it's still part of our strategy. And I think all of us measure in our ESG reports each year, how many at the end of each year, what is our progress to install shoreside power capability to each one of our ships. And I know that will be for Norwegian Cruise Line, all of our ships, Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings will be about 70% by the end of this year. Of our ships have electrical capabilities. So, and every one of us probably in our ESG reports, I think all of the major brands have those goals that we're working towards. So as you see that and you see us building new ships, they come out of the yard with that, but we're still spending money to retrofit our older ships.
Thank you. Anything else for discussion?
Hearing C, none, will go around for some attendees' comment. Jack?
I'd just like to thank everybody for the opportunity to meet in person. I find these to be instructive and productive conversations. And I look forward just to continue building our relationship in the most mutually beneficial manner possible going forward.
Yeah, well said, Jack. I agree. This is the third time in a year that we've been here, and boy, it's been sat in the same seat every time. And I don't know, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to that, but I'm trying to decode it. But no, it's great to see everybody, and I do think that we're in a way different place than we were a couple of years ago, and I'm looking forward to ongoing collaboration and getting the agreement is a good place to focus on next, and let's just try to get that done with some urgency and move forward. So thank you for the opportunity to be here again, and appreciate the wonderful weather you arranged. 3 attempts to land last night was, 2 bonus extra attempts was great, and it's good to be here. Good to see you all.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of our cruise line partners for coming down and participating again. I look forward to a 2-page agreement. And I think with that, just thank you for coming. And I want to change my hat for a minute. As a member of the Ketchikan Lions Club, I want to thank the Holland America Princess Group for helping us get 2 more bus shelters for the school kids to stay dry in. So thank you.
The weather's a good reminder of why they need those, huh? Thank you, everyone, for welcoming us here again today. Lori, for all the work that you put into this, and greeting us at the ferry today when we got off the airplane. I think that this partnership is definitely growing and getting better every time that we meet. And I think that serves us well, hopefully serves the community well. And I also look forward to the simplified passenger fee agreement, because I think that's going to just be one more step in how we work together to try to accomplish our goals and your goals, our mutual goals, and keep cruise tourism and tourism in general like a thriving part of the Southeast economy and of Ketchikan's economy. So thank you.
So everybody's had really great comments. Sorry. I do want to say thank you to everybody. I know you guys have had a busy last 3 weeks going all over for conferences, and it's that time of year, right? So thank you guys for making the effort and the time to come to Ketchikan and to the other communities across Southeast. It's from a perspective as a citizen and a council member, it's really nice to have those faces engaged once a year, twice a year. And I know other communities also appreciate that. And then I also want to give a shout out to our citizens. There's a lot of other communities that are not as well off as we are right now. Our citizens are, especially with all the impacts of everything tourism-based and construction, road and everything, our citizens have been doing a lot and supporting the efforts for all of us to continue to have a successful business plan. So I always want to give them a thank you for allowing that to happen in our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your leadership here. Laurie, for working with me so closely on coordinating things like this, but certainly the massive amount of work that goes on between you personally and just being that conductor of good business and collaboration. So thank you. And Lacey, I'm so glad that you're here, and with the changes over how many years now, but you're just that face of stability here. And so we're very grateful for that. Absolutely. And for the city council members that are here today, thank you very much for your engagement, and also willingness, Mr. Mayor, and others for addressing the passenger fee agreement and getting us back to where we started, and also producing something that's really worthwhile. So thank you very much.
I don't know if I can really add anything more, but just to say thank you to everybody that came to Ketchikan. I know it's a bit of a Southeast road circuit this time of year, but it's still really appreciated to have everybody in the room and to meet new people, new partners like on Olive, and talk about what the future of cruise looks like in Ketchikan because it is our primary economy. We want to make sure that it remains that because it impacts every aspect of life here in Ketchikan. People say it doesn't, but it does. So really happy to have these continued conversations. Look forward to hopefully finalizing the MOU and talking about some of those bigger initiatives, perhaps like shore power, that will make Ketchikan remain a viable destination long into the future. I'd like to thank Mr. Mayor and Lacey and Lori for always for continuing to show the leadership here and to lead the assembly and the new members I've met today for the assembly. Thank you for your time. And I'd like to the support that we have that's in the back row here as well. Thank you very much. The passion that you all show to make Ketchikan the best place possible for our guests. I just want to say that we really appreciate it. We appreciate bringing our guests to such a wonderful destination. But again, it's the passion that you show for this destination to make it the best possible experience for our guests. Thank you very much.
Everyone for making the trek. I know this time of year is very, very busy in the industry, especially since everybody's ramping up and getting ready to get going for all of the seasons that start in the spring, not just Alaska. So I thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for once again running a fabulous meeting. And thank you to the council members for being here, for listening, and for being an active part of making this industry so successful in Ketchikan.
Yeah, thanks again, everybody, for coming. It's so nice to be around the two lines. And you guys are always so positive, and it's a wonderful relationship that we have with the cruise lines, and I look forward to continuing that wonderful relationship. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council members and everybody else. I'm very happy to be here. It's very inspirational to see, and this is how I think it's all about. It's us having the opportunity to come with council members and people from the municipalities and the communities. That's very important because it's better to talk with us than about us. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all our cruise line visitors. We appreciate that we sit down and have this dialogue that brings this relationship being a cohesive relationship, a symbiotic relationship. But it is important, very important, that we take the local sentiment into consideration because the quality of life for our local population, if that is enhanced, it enhances the visitors' experience in our community. We welcome visitors, our local population welcomes visitors, but at the same time, we need to reach this agreement. It has to be a simple agreement, I agree, so that the quality of benefits and life for our local population is addressed as well as the quality of experience for our visitors is enhanced. So I am very grateful for all of you being here. Thank you so much. I also want to thank our staff and our visitors for being here and our staff for putting this meeting, which is so great. And I'm looking forward to many more meetings in the future. Thank you so much.
There's very little to add at this point, but I will add my thanks to thanks that has been shared by all of the other members. This was really productive and I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, there's nothing more I can add at this point, but Mayor, I just want to, thank you, all of the council members, Lacey, you have an amazing team, and we appreciate you all. And I just wish you all a wonderful cruise season this year and can't wait to come back to visit you again in Ketchikan after the season's over. Thank you.
First of all,
welcome MSC to Alaska. I'm glad to see you here. What's really nice is you see a lot of familiar faces around the table, and it makes it easier to deal with the issues that we have if we already have this relationship or knowledge of each other. I really enjoy the loyalty that you have to your industry, your company, and the city in the same manner, the loyalty and compassion that our council members have for our community. And I think that by having these conversations and working together rather than in opposition will benefit the overall community and the cruise industry in Alaska. We know it's growing, and as the cruise industry feels those growing pains, so does the communities that we represent. And it's a matter for the community to figure out what they can, is viable for them economically and how they can process the information they get and proceed with improving the experience we have here. But it takes this communication and the will of the community. So again, thank you everybody for making the time to come to Ketchikan. I think that the beneficial communications that we had today, as long as we continue to talk these issues through and recognize the problems both on the cruise industry side as well as the community side, we got a recipe for success. So thank you. Is there any other business before the council? Any opposed? Hearing seen none, we stand adjourned. Thank you, guys. I went over by 10 minutes.